tonight for Smith Falls Town Council on November 18th. I'm Jay Brennan. I'll be chairing this meeting. We have a full council. However, we have Councillor Miller joining us virtually, so welcome to you. I'll begin with the land acknowledgement on November 18th, 2024. We acknowledge that the sacred land on which Smith Falls is now located has been a site of human activity for over 10,000 years and is rich in Indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. We're grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and water in order that we might meet here today. We are also grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution in making of the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smith Falls. We are mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all our relations. Together, may we care for this land and each other, drawing on the strength from our mutual history of nation building through peace, friendship, and being mindful of generations to come. So I'll call the meeting to order at 5:01, and I'll look for a motion that the November 18th, 2024 special committee of the whole agenda be approved as circulated. Councillor Robinson, second by Councillor Quinn. All in favor? Any disclosure of pecuniary interest or conflict of interest in general nature thereof? Seeing none, we have no approval of minutes. We do have two special delegations this evening, and I'd like to welcome Lori Huber from KPMG to present us with our financial statements and our report card for the year.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'm pleased to be here this year in person to deliver our report for fiscal 2023. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. Great. So we had included our report in the package for tonight's meeting. There were two items in there, one being our report, the second one being the actual financial statements themselves. So what we try to do is marry the two pieces together in terms of our presentation to share with you the pieces that I'm required to have a discussion with you around the audit and also with respect to the numbers themselves. So I'll certainly walk through the highlights. I recognize it is a lengthy report, and so I'll touch on the things that I think are most meaningful to you. And as always, if there are any questions, I would be certainly more than happy to address those. So we'll start things off on page number 5 of our report, which should say status at the top of the page. So we are essentially complete with respect to our audit for the 2023 fiscal year. Save for really having the discussion here tonight and ultimately council's acceptance and approval of the financial statements. That will enable us to be able to release our audit report in final thereafter. So jumping onto the next page, which is page number 6, here's the first page, which has one of the key items in your financial statements proper, which is your statement of financial position, otherwise known as the balance sheet. So what are the assets and the liabilities of the organization at the close of business on December 31? On the right-hand side, I've tried to give you some of the variance analysis in terms of what are some of the more significant changes year over year from 2022 to 2023. I'll certainly touch on things that I think are likely most important to you here. So at the top of the house, under the financial assets, you can see, again, a fairly healthy cash balance sitting in the bank at the end of the year at $20.9 million, which has increased year over year. You will also see right below there, that's your taxes receivable. So any outstanding taxes that should have been received relating to the fiscal year in the current year or years previous, those have actually dramatically decreased, which I actually think is actually a very positive note for the town. Certainly you can see on the right-hand side with the installation of automatic electronic payments, that has certainly been a game changer, if you will, in terms of driving that number down and generating more cash related to your outstanding receivables. On the liability side of the house, as we work our way down, you will see accounts payable and accrued liabilities have increased about $1 million year over year. That's always a tricky one to explain because it's really a function of the timing of payments at the end of the year and what has actually been in and paid versus what has been unpaid at the end of the year. It will also be very much dependent on the level of outstanding capital activity. As we know, capital activity tends to be more costly as those items are incurred. So that will certainly drive that number up as well. Other current liabilities that you'll see has increased by about $1 million, sitting at the $2.1 million. Those are primarily related to 2 large security deposits that were received before the end of the year that sit there as other current liability. Your obligatory reserve funds, they have increased as well. And you can see there, those are a function of the development charges that have been collected and not yet brought into revenue based on the projects that were claimed to be undertaken with respect to those charges. A new item this year that you will see loud and clear in our report, I would have talked about it briefly as part of the closure of the 2022 audit, but there was a new accounting standard this year that the team was required to implement and adopt, and that's asset retirement obligations. So previous to the current fiscal year, to the extent any items were required to be remedied in terms of your infrastructure or your tangible capital assets, those didn't land on your balance sheet in previous years. This year, the team had to undertake an exercise where they inventoried all of the assets, all of the tangible capital assets, to say, what are things that I might need to remedy in the future, and actually put it on the books. So the biggest example here, and you'll see this in our report, is to the extent there is asbestos in any of the existing infrastructure. We all know that that would have to be remedied at some point in the future. So that was quantified with the use of an external expert on the part of management. And that has been included in your financial statements this year. So that was a heavy lift for 2023, certainly part of the delay, I would also say, in us getting final numbers to you here now in November, recognizing it is a little bit sooner than the previous year. So again, one of the new pieces to share with you. In terms of long-term liabilities, I know that's something that's always of interest of council. You can see that has come down year over year, and that's really a function of the principal repayments that were made. Below there, you will see your significant investment in your tangible capital assets. So you can see the net book value has increased by about $4 million year over year. And on the right-hand side, you can see the in-year additions are about $10 million, offset by the current year charge for amortization. So significant items in there relate to your roads, sidewalks, equipment, and some water and sewer items. Shown a different way because it's such a large number. On the next page, you will see there's a nice pie graph that shares with you the investments that have been made on a net book value basis by asset category. Really there just for informational items, and you can see just less than 50% of the investment is sitting in the buildings of the town. As we move our way through on page number 8, you will see I've given you a 5-year trend in terms of your reserve and reserve funds. So just as a reminder, in terms of your accumulated surplus, it does have a number of component parts. One of the bigger ones is your investment in TCA, obviously based on the magnitude of those numbers. And then on the next slide, you'll see hopefully a bar graph if we carry forward on page number 8.
Sorry, I don't know why it's not scrolling.
Okay, that's all right. So what I've done is given you a 5-year overview in terms of where you've been and where you're at now with respect to reserve and reserve funds. So you can see consistent activity certainly over the course of the last 3 years. And then if we go forward to the next page on page number 9, again, looking at your percentage of operating expenses with respect to your reserve and reserve funds, this is one of the KPIs that the province does look at. And you can see their benchmark would say anything greater than 20% would be a green or something that would be a sign of health. You can see you're certainly well north of that minimum standard and pretty consistent with where you've been over the course of the last 3 years. Moving on to page number 10, that's the second piece of your financial statements, which really shares with you the volume of in-year activity that could be more near and dear to your hearts in terms of the way you budget and comparing yourself actual to budget. So your statement of operations highlights your total revenues and your total expenses in year. Again, similar story on the right-hand side. I've given you a variance analysis of some of the more significant financial statement item captions. You can see taxation revenue pretty close to budget, which is what you would expect. Government transfers, again, to my point on the balance sheet, this is one that can fluctuate over time. The way public sector accounting standards work for municipal government is that anytime you get capital funding, it actually goes into revenue. So the volatility of capital activity will be reflected on that item depending on the in-year activity. So that's why you'll see a reduction there. The other item that is likely of interest is related to investment income. And I know certainly the treasurer and I had a conversation around this last week. You can see the budgeted amount for investment income, I would say, was exceptionally low at $107,000, and the actual came in at over $1 million for 2023. And that's really a function of the market and the favorability of the rates that were earned on those pieces. In terms of expenses relative to budget, you can see they have increased from the previous year and have increased over budget. And again, nothing significant jumped out at us across the board. We did see increases in a few categories, certainly. So that's your statement of operations. In terms of page number 11, again, your tax arrears as a percentage of your current levy, again, looking at yourself over the course of the last 5 years, the province would say anything less than 10% would certainly be a green. You can see with that significant change on your balance sheet at the end of 2023, that's certainly been a big driver of a decrease in this number, which is good. So you can see certainly healthy as your tax arrears as the percentage of your current year levy. Your statement of operations under municipal accounting are showing your expenses by department. Slide number 12 of our report gives you a sense of where the money is actually going to the type of expenditure. So you can see likely of interest to council as well. Salaries and wages are sitting at about 30%. And that one's an interesting one for me for the town. I obviously have the benefit of looking at a lot of municipal financial statements across Eastern Ontario. And I would say certainly for the town of Smith Falls, generally I would say the range tends to be somewhere between 26 and 38%. You're right there in the middle, and you have a lot of in-house activity, certainly around protection. So just my 2 cents to say that number, you may or may think that's high, but I would actually say that that's quite low compared to some of your peer comparators. Into some of the more audit related stuff, which I'll give you the highlights in terms of page number 13. We don't formally come to this group and share with you an audit plan, but a KPMG audit plan continues to be very much risk-based, which means we stand back looking at the financial statements as a whole and try to identify where we believe there's a greater risk of material misstatement occurring. So that is continued on. You can see 2 items that likely jump out at you on page number 13. The first one is management override of controls. I will park that one briefly because there's an extra slide on it on the next page. And just pause briefly on asset retirement obligations, because the fact that it was new and different in the current year, that's something other than what we would consider to be a base risk or low risk. That will go down to low in future years, but certainly time and attention was put to that piece this year to make sure that we got it right in first year to avoid the opportunity for errors in the future. So page number 14 speaks to that presumed risk of management override of controls, and I want to use those words carefully, because in the professional standards that we must abide by as your external auditor, we are mandated certain things that we must incorporate in each and every audit, and this is certainly one of those. The handbook tells us that we need to presume that management in their role as management could potentially override controls. So it's not unique to your organization, it's in every single audit, and we are required to do work against that risk each and every year. So the highlight really for fiscal 2023 is we've done the work that's required to mitigate that risk by professional standards, and there's certainly nothing to bring to your attention, which is a great sign. I think I've shared with you the pieces that I wanted to with respect to asset retirement obligations on page number 15. And if we jump to the next slide, which should be financial instruments at the top of the page. 2023 was a busy year. It wasn't just asset retirement obligations. There were also new accounting standards relating to financial instruments. So if you had the opportunity to read through the financial statements, you will see there are extensive disclosures now included in your financial statements, certainly at the back related to financial risks that is part of this new standard. So what would change a user's decision related to certain risks? Think about interest rate risk, think about liquidity risk. All of those things are included in that new standard. Didn't impact the numbers per se, but there are new disclosures that will carry forward into the future. In terms of our work relative to the numbers, each and every year we are required to set a level of audit materiality. We don't audit all of the transactions that culminate into the financial statements. A level of materiality is meant to say what would change a user's decision on the financial statements. It's very much driven based on the volume of activity that you report on your statement of operations. So you can see there our level of overall materiality. It is a group audit. You do continue to have components that you control that is in your financial statements. That piece was set at $750,000 this year for the financial statements as a whole. Slight increase year over year because your volume had increased. However, as we audit to a much lesser detail, or much greater detail, I should say, to the extent we identify any differences in the accounts in excess of $37,500, which is 5% of that overall materiality number, that's the component that is likely most important to share in this discussion, because that's our determination of whether or not any audit misstatements might potentially impact our audit opinion. So I won't go through them in detail at all, but we did identify uncorrected items that are not incorporated into the financial statements. And we did identify items that have been incorporated into the financial statements. I would say on page number 18, You can see the total there. Interestingly enough, this always works out this way, generally speaking. We have offsets. So we have some items that impact income in a positive way, some items that impact income in a negative way. All of those pieces culminate together this year here for $6,957, which certainly relative to materiality of $750,000 do not impact our audit opinion. So we are able to carry on with a clean audit based on those items that have been identified. I would also say with respect to the corrected items, we've very much drawn a line in the sand this year across the board. Once the team provides us with a trial balance, that's sort of our starting point, and then we accumulate all of the adjustments thereafter, which is why you see some items there on page number 18, which have been corrected in the financial statements. Page number 20 shares with you a little bit of insight in terms of what we are also required to do outside of the numbers themselves with respect to the audit. So we are required to sit down with the team, understand the systems, processes, and controls that culminate into the financial reporting process, and not opine on them, but certainly identify areas of concern related to internal control weaknesses, significant deficiencies, and so on. Pleased to report based on the results of that work, certainly nothing from a significant deficiency point of view to bring to your attention. Jumping ahead a few slides, page number 22 is specific topics. This one is new for us this year, but it's a great reminder for all of those topics on the left-hand side. By professional standards, we are required to share with you those items to the extent they might exist. Pleased to say none of those do exist, but it's a nice checklist to give yourself comfort that those things have been considered through the course of our audit. Of course, on page 23 of our report, as your external auditor, we need to be mindful of our independence. To the extent we might provide any non-audit services, we need to be open and transparent with respect to those. Make sure we have the right safeguards in play. We have not provided any non-audit services, so there's nothing there from an independence point of view that might be thought to encroach on our ability to provide a clean third-party opinion. So this really takes us to the final piece, which starts on page number 26 of our report, which is Appendix 1A. This is really our contribution to your annual financial statements, which is our independent draft auditor's report. So based on the results of our findings that I've just shared, certainly it's a clean opinion, again, for fiscal 2023. You will see there is an inclusion in the audit report this year related to the implementation of the asset retirement obligation standard, which is required because it is material. That number was over materiality, so that's a one-year piece to bridge the gap in terms of the change in accounting policy. Beyond that, it is a standard report and will certainly be dated the date upon which council accepts and approves the financial statement. So, Mr. Chair, I don't know if I spoke too fast. I don't know if I told you too much, but those are the highlights, and I'd certainly welcome any questions from the group if there are any.
I can tell you love your job.
I do. I do.
So I'll ask my colleagues for any questions or comments.
Just
Go ahead, Councilor McKenna.
thank you both to the staff who put all the work into getting this. I don't mind it being late. We want it right, and it's in the fiscal year, so that's a good thing.
That's right. That's right.
1 year post. So no, I'm pleased with the audit. I'm looking for any new audit standards that you're going to be coming. You gave us about 3-year heads up on the asbestos, and is there anything in the horizon that we need to be thinking about?
So through you, Mr. Chair, there are 3 new ones coming on board for 2024. Pleased to say nothing like 2023. Just actually met with the treasurer and his team previous to this meeting to give them a heads up around the work that needs to be undertaken. There is a new revenue recognition standard essentially, but it's a paper exercise. You don't need to go out and do any extra effort, hire consultants to help with the exercise. So certainly confident with the skills and abilities of the team that will be a non-starter, if you will, in terms of any implications on the fiscal 2024 audit.
And just to follow up through the CAO, how do we make the audited financial statements available at the front desk, online, for the public? Because it's for them to be listening, they wouldn't have had the chance to absorb all this.
Through the chair, yeah, great question. So we do both. So it will be posted to the website once it's accepted by council, and we can make paper copies available
If someone needs one.
Upon request.
And I did have a non-audit service question. I'm more interested in, it's about for maybe 3-year budget planning or 4 years? Or do you know municipalities are doing that kind of, rather than just doing them 1 year at a time somehow? Are you seeing much of that happening now?
So through you, Mr. Chair, yes, I would definitely say that would be best practice, and that would be certainly something that the team may consider undertaking at some point in the future. We do see it quite commonly, especially in larger municipalities. Absolutely.
Yeah, I've seen it in the large ones.
Mhm.
We aren't exactly large, but
No, but it is best practice, and I think gives you, a longer line of sight to help you make some strategic planning decisions that would be meaningful to have.
thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, thank you very much, Lori. I think it's a tribute to our staff as well, that we get a clean audit pretty much every year. Every year.
So far, I can't guarantee for next year.
But from the sounds of it, I think we're on par or better than some of our neighbors, or not competitors, but our other municipal colleagues. So thank you for bringing that to us. And I guess my only question would be, we're going to accept this audit report at a future council meeting, clerk? Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
your time.
Okay. So we have one other delegation this evening, and it's everyone knows Barb Hicks from the Rideau Environmental Action League, and a much appreciated report on activities and projects going on at Real.
That screen's frozen. Mr. Chair, I just want to apologize. Unfortunately, our provider's not sure why, but the screen's completely frozen. They're trying to fix it, but
Okay.
they can't right now. So I'm not sure.
Well, we have the presentation on our. We could follow along that way too, if you want.
She doesn't have it.
I don't.
Okay.
Can I look at
You
you?
do have mine, Barb.
What should I do?
I can, you know what? Let me see if I can bring it up.
Okay, I'll do that if you want, whatever.
I can do it up here.
You won't get to see, well, you have it, so you have the pictures and stuff.
Okay.
We just won't be able to display it.
That's okay. There's not that many people in the audience anyways.
It's such a good slide deck. I hate to everybody to see
Oh,
it.
well, but you got sent them, that's good. That's good. Okay,
Set that up. Just scroll down.
with this one, or,
Just with that. There. Yeah.
okay. Right. Well, this is different. We'll get rid of that. This is exactly what we're seeing here.
So they have their own, but it won't.
Okay, so it doesn't matter. Okay, I'm sorry. This is a different setup here than I'm
Yeah.
used to.
It is, yeah.
Anyways, thank you for allowing us to come and tell you a little bit more about Real. I know a lot of you know, but it's good to give updates here and there. And it's very hard to summarize our organization in 10 minutes, but we're going to try and just do the past few years. So I'm just going to tell you basically what we're trying to do, the visible things we have in town, the ways we let the community participate, a bit about the Real Deal store, and where we get our money. So, of course, we started back in 1989 with Peter Au and Ron Stewart attending the very inspiring presentation by David Suzuki. And so that means we are at 35 years now, 35 years old, which is pretty impressive. So the idea was to come back to Smiths Falls and do lots of hands-on, small-scale projects that would show people they can make a difference, that would empower people, things that were needed in our community. And basically, we kind of take any environmental project that deals with water, waste, energy, or climate change, so it's pretty broad. But that's what we do. And even though we're very based in Smiths Falls, some of our programs do reach out throughout Lanark, Leeds, and Grenville. And our little catchphrase is real people taking real action to protect our environment. So I was just noticing, because of the last few years, there are lots of very visible evidence of Real in Smiths Falls now. There's, of course, the mini forest in Highland Park that was just planted last October. There's the D-Pave down at Town Square that I believe was 2020. I could have that wrong. And we're still maintaining the 2 gardens down there. For our 30th anniversary, we wanted to plant 30 trees, so we planted 5 trees in each of 6 schools in the area. Evergreen Avenue, of course, has been there in Victoria Park since the year 2000, and there's still a very active committee, and they're adding new commemorative stones every year. Over at the Real Deal site, we have a Monarch Garden. That was another 30th anniversary project. We now have phase 2 and phase 3 because it really worked, and it looks really nice. It attracts butterflies in the years when there are butterflies around. We have a community garden on site that's been there since 2010. So there's about 12 plots that people can rent for $25 for the season and grow their own produce in that garden. And there's a little community, a compost demonstration site next to it. And that's kind of managed by one of our community gardeners. So all of those projects had a component of volunteers, people from across the community participating. There are other things that we have for people to participate in, the shoreline cleanups along the Rideau that lately have been happening in the spring. And of course, Pitch in Smith Falls, that has probably been going on for ever since we've been here, a popular thing the last 2 weeks in April. Other things we have that people can participate in environmental protection. We have a radon meter, an air quality meter, and kilowatt meters for people to borrow free of charge. We also have 3 of the food cyclers that the town piloted. If people want to take them home and try them for a few weeks and see if it would work in their household, they can do that. We've been offering home energy audits for decades now. That's Al Leonard in the picture doing a blower door test. Whenever there is a program that people can take advantage of through Enbridge or the federal government, they always need a pre and a post audit in order to access the funds. So we have people who do that and do it for environmental reasons, not to make a quick buck. We have a little tool library in the corner of the Real Deal store. We have about 100 tools that people can purchase a membership and borrow as they need them. And of course, we have displays at public events. We usually do maybe 5 or 6 events a year. We sell rain barrels to encourage people to conserve water. And we cooperate with the Rideau Roundtable. We've helped them with a few of their projects, their wetland awareness tours, which is a great thing because there's a lot of people in town who don't get out on the water at all. And here's an opportunity for them to do so. That shoreline demonstration project they did, which you can tell where it is over there on that Turtle. Is it Turtle Island or is that, anyways, down there. I get those islands mixed up. And the Rideau Roundtable just got some money for an eco-literacy program that they're going to be bringing to various libraries, including the Smith Falls Public Library. And we've helped them a little bit with that. And of course, we've got Peter Au. You all know Peter Au. He's our representative to the Smith Falls Climate Protection Working Group. And ever since the town has been giving us a grant, we've had a representative from town council come to our board meetings when they can. So that was starting with Ken Graham was there for a long time, then Lorraine Allen, Nikki Dwyer, and of course, Dawn is the representative now. And the Real Deal. Everybody seems to know Real for the Real Deal store. There's the building at 85 William Street. I can't tell you how important that building is to the whole equation. There's no way we could run the store without that space. And really for a use space, it's quite perfect. It has that natural area. It's on the swale, it's got a good parking lot, lots of fenced area behind. It's great for that. So the idea of the store was to reduce waste and raise funds for Real's other projects and to create work and volunteer opportunities. And I think we have done that successfully. So we've been over 15 years at that 85 William Street location. So there's a quick look inside the store in case you've never been there, like a typical thrift store, but no clothing. But what does set us apart is all that stuff we have outside in the dome. We call that big green thing a dome. and in the yard, all the doors, the windows, the bricks, the fasteners, the power tools, all that kind of stuff that you don't usually see in other thrift stores, except perhaps Habitat for Humanity retail. So we're trying to get people to think secondhand first. We weigh everything coming in and going out of the store and track it by municipality. We don't charge sales tax because we have that, we are a registered Canadian charity. So if we're selling used goods, we don't have to charge tax. If we sell a new good like a rain barrel, we have to charge tax on that. So we divert about 32 tons a year from the donations coming into the store, and 12.6 tons of that are Smith Falls. So that's about 40% of our donations are coming from Smith Falls residents. And on the flip side, the Smith Falls people are buying about 40% of it also. And so we have about just under 10,000 buyers a year. Of course, that doesn't count browsers, but we can't count them. We can't count them. And although this is not one of our goals, the store is helpful to limited income residents because we have lots of cheap stuff, best prices in the area, really. And there's also a lot of stuff that we put on the free table that lots of people seem to really love. Free is much more free than a 25-cent item, apparently. People will take anything for free. Also, just as you come to the store, there's some bins for hard to recycle items that you can't put in your own municipal programs, such as the batteries, pens, print and toner cartridges, all those things you see in the picture. You know, some of those items will come and go as you know, depending on whether we have another place to direct it to, but people seem to like that. I'd say the batteries are the most popular. People are always coming in and dropping off their batteries and taking off. So that's okay. The electronic waste depot is a really great service there. People are very happy that they can drop off their TVs and their stereo systems and their phones. We get paid by the weight for it. Every time that bin fills, that's almost $300 for us, which is great. And now they're taking electric appliances too. So that sort of ups the weight that we will have in there. So we take in about 30 tons a year from that. That's not us weighing that. That's the company weighing it. We can't weigh that stuff. It's too heavy. And we also take in about 13 tons of scrap metal that we get a little bit of money for also. We take it to Falls Iron and Metal. No, we don't take it there. They come and get it. Sorry. We were very happy that we're able to provide some jobs at the store. So we have about 4.5 30-hour-a-week jobs. And we do lots of work placements through the various agencies, depending on, you know, where we are in our history, like On Track and HRSDC. Lots of volunteer opportunities, like high school students getting their community service hours. And we do track the volunteer hours going into the store. So the last 2 years, it's been over 2,000 hours. So that's something. And we also help other community groups with our excess stuff. Like we give the medical stuff to the Civitan Club, we give the Bibles to the Salvation Army. You know, clothing goes to the local thrift stores that accept clothing, purses go to Big Brothers, Big Sisters, that kind of thing. And, you know, if we hear of anything else, someone's collecting something, we're happy to do that. Because there's a lot of things that we get way too much of and we're never going to be able to sell, really. So through the store, we call it the Real Deal Store and Environment Center because we're trying to create a hub of environmental activity there. We want people to think secondhand, make it more mainstream. It's not a thrift store. You're not doing it just to save money. You're doing it because it's a good thing for the environment. When we have all these other people coming into the store, it's sort of another audience for all our other programs. You know, we say, hey, do you want to buy a rain barrel? You know, would you like to participate in this tree planting project? And another thing is it's very, through the years, the proportion of people coming from outside Lanark, Leeds, and Granville has been growing. It's up to 12% now. You often see those people on Saturdays. They make a trip of it. And those, you know, that recent flyer that listed all the thrift stores in Smiths Falls is very helpful. So people know there's, you know, more than one store to come and see in Smiths Falls. Yeah, so that's encouraging for us. But one thing I would say is that those people, they come and buy, but they don't usually donate. They don't think to pack up their car with stuff when they leave Ottawa and bring it. So we'll have to work on that, see if we can you know, convince them that they should do that. So we have sort of two fundraisers. We do a spring fundraiser when we sell the rain barrels and native plants, seeds. Trinity United Church comes and sells their mushroom compost because they don't have much of a yard at their church. And then, of course, right now we have our fall online auction going on. This is the 5th year we've done it. And what's different about it is, of course, most of the stuff is used items. The auction's going on until November 23rd. And we take that money. The money is it's a fundraiser for Real, but the portion that is the sale of the used items, we split between Real and the Real Deal because we keep separate bank accounts so that they benefit from that as well. So I won't go through all these other sources of income, but I just wanted to point out that we do try hard to get money from lots of places. We get, you know, donations from our members, we get memberships. And occasionally we do get grants, but as you probably know, they have to be directed to a particular project. You can't just use it for paying your propane bill or anything like that. And so there's Real in a nutshell. Real is a lot of things to the town. You know, we reduce waste. We have all these volunteer opportunities. We're providing jobs. I think we're the environmental conscience of the town. We have a good reputation. Been around for 35 years. Good track record, and we just want to be able to keep doing what we're doing. So, yeah, that's about it.
Thank you, Barb. I know we'll have some comments and questions.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Councillor Quinn.
Barb, thank you very much. That was a great presentation.
Thank you.
And you know what you've accomplished here? How many people are sitting at home watching this and saying, well, I didn't realize that. Or I thought they just did certain things. Now we know that you do all kinds of things over there. You are really working very hard. This is really great. And the online auction, fantastic.
Yes, it's really taken off. We're very pleased. Very pleased.
So you're a busy, busy group. Thank you.
Yes, we are. You know.
Councillor McKenna.
Thanks, Barb. It was a very, I didn't think you would get through it in 10 minutes, and you did. You talked almost as fast as the auditor.
Well, contest.
Do you have enough volunteers at Rio?
Yes and well, the problem with the Real Deal is it varies much by the season, right? We're going into January, February, March, where the donations are kind of slow, so we don't really need as many people. But then in the summer, it is busy. Well, this was an unusually slow summer for a lot of thrift stores. I'm not really sure why. Yeah, but the kind of volunteers we would really like is people who like to organize things and aren't afraid to do that and are willing to take on a commitment, you know, like board members or anyone who actually would lead a committee, because, you know, the volunteers like to go out for 2 hours and be done with it and go off and do their other stuff. So that kind of level of volunteer is harder to find. And they're very busy people. They're probably involved in a couple other organizations already, so they don't.
People who like to, because you need a board of directors to run the corporation, and they would be welcomed, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. We can take up, I think our constitution allows up to 12 or something, and we're down to about 5 at the moment. So yeah, we can certainly use board members if they're not scared of that kind of thing.
And I'm going to ask, I won't put anybody on the spot, but I just wonder what 12.6 tons of waste costs us to move out of the town that we don't have to do. But I'll wait for Director McMahon to come
A long time ago, we used to say it was 165 a ton. I'm assuming it's gone up.
Actually, if I may, so each year we do the mathematics on that. Our costs right now are about 120 all in with getting it to the transfer station and then disposing of it. So it's come down a bit, but it's still a measurable diversion of waste. And items are put in a landfill because of the weight, but the type of articles that Real diverts are voluminous as well, and they take up space. So they might not be heavy, but they take up a lot of space. That's what fills a landfill, not the weight. So I would just caution or encourage people to look at the volume that we're diverting as well as the weight of material.
And it's a shame to put it in landfill when it can be repurposed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we try very hard to give everything a chance. You know, even if I think we sell a lot of small things in the store that you won't find in other thrift stores, and we'll put it on the free table. And
I really like the data you put in as well. All the information is great. Thank you.
Yeah, we have it. We try to keep track of these things, because it helps to be able to go back and say, this is what we did when we go to visit municipalities like yours.
Okay, thanks, Barb. I don't think anybody in town doesn't know about Real, but I think it's really helpful.
You'd be surprised.
Well, you coming here will help
That's
with
good.
that. And I know I've used the electronic recycling piece, and I've been there to get mushroom compost. And I didn't know about the food cycler that you had them there for, because I know that it was here in town for a while, and that's an interesting piece as well. So, thanks for the information.
You're very welcome.
So moving along, I believe we have one report from Sao Morris.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just wanted to advise council that we have a contingency plan in place for the postal strike that's underway right now, which just began on Friday. So we've taken stock of the dependencies we have to mail out or receive mail, and the most urgent need will occur a week from today when the next cycle of water billing goes out. So we have developed a contingency plan to get the water bills out, and we'll continue to monitor the job action, and if it extends for a certain period of time, we'll revise our contingency plan to make sure that we can continue the business of the town. So it is a great opportunity. We will be putting a notification in the water bills to encourage people to sign up for the electronic fund transfer service that we offer, and hopefully we can get more people paying or purchasing through electronic means. So it may be a good opportunity to encourage that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for that? Okay, thanks for that. We have no committee of the whole consent reports, so we have 3 priority issues and reports. First is funding application endorsement for Lower Reach Park with Director Clark.
Good evening, everyone. Tana Torch is one of the primary grant writers in the department, and she came across the Community Sport and Recreation Infrastructure Fund from the province of Ontario, and they are offering money to interested individuals, of which we are certainly some. So we're seeking endorsement. They require a bylaw passed from council to approve this application. We're seeking endorsement of our funding application. Overall, it's an aspirational $1 million project for Lower Reach over 2 years, ending in 2027. The intention of the department is to do a lot of planning if we are successful, do a lot of planning in 2025 with coming to council for capital asks because we are required to put in 30% of it. So it would be a $300,000 support from council with $700,000 from the province of Ontario, again over the 2 years. So I'm hoping for some support in our application.
Thank you. Questions? Comments? Who doesn't want money? We all do.
Okay.
So that's great. That's a great, and I know we have the consultation. I think it just ended for Lower Reach, but I think that'll fit in with some of the comments that you're going to get. So
Absolutely. And just the idea, we have a general idea. We want to upgrade walkways. We want to look at the shoreline. We want to ensure that the sports fields are in really good repair. The splash pad needs a bit of work. So there's some obvious things that we'd like to put some money towards. If we can put somebody else's money towards it, that's even better. But I think we're also, from the preliminary conversations coming out of the redesign study, that's actually exactly what people are asking for, is better quality trails, better shoreline interaction, that kind of thing. So it's in line with what we're seeing. And so we'll do the planning for 2025 and move it forward from there. So we're hoping we're successful.
okay, thank you.
Thanks.
And well, that'll come forward later this evening, I believe. We'll have a motion for that. 9.2, 2025 Roma Conference Delegation Request Report with CEO Morse.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. So the ROMA, the Rural Ontario Municipal Association Conference, is coming up in January. And the province is actually accepting a delegation request for ministerial delegation. So the deadline to submit an application is November 27th. So we have a little bit of time. So this report, keeping with the theme of the one we just heard about, is about advocating for money. So staff have put together a recommendation with 2 items we think would be worthy of a face-to-face conversation with a minister or an associate minister. The first is to advocate for the Housing Enabling Water Systems Fund. Council may remember we applied in round 1. Unfortunately, we were not successful. We have applied for round 2. And I think a dialogue would help us explain the rationale and the importance of that funding request. The second one is the one you just heard from Director Clark. We think having an opportunity to talk about how meaningful that money would be and how meaningful the project would be would help perhaps move along the request that we made for funding. So those are the 2 that we have from a staff point of view. I would just review Back at AMO in August, we brought forward, we had a delegation with the Associate Minister of Mental Health and Addictions. So from that discussion, there has been some traction. So in a conversation with the mayor, we felt it probably wasn't wise to continue that discussion because funding was provided by the province for the Heart Hub model that's being promoted. So we think we've probably taken that one as far as we can from an advocacy point of view. A year ago, last year or this year, rather 2024 Roma conference, we had 3 delegations. We got traction on the Ministry of Transportation one. That ended up with funding for the design for the Beckwith bridges. We have a report coming forward next week to award the work. And we had a couple of other ones that have, I think, seen traction provincially. So my point here is that we've done a number of delegations, and I think they've advanced to the point that we wanted them to advance to. So there's probably little utility in going back and repeating those delegations again. So the 2 that we're offering tonight as a recommendation are revolve around funding.
Thank you. Councilor McGuire?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I think we still have a problem with the impact assessments and that being frozen. And I'm wondering if there's other municipalities in the same boat as Smith Falls where with our average assessment around 180,000, it's not reflective of the new builds, and it's this big disparity of what people are paying across town. I think there's got to be other municipalities in Ontario with this problem, and I'm wondering if we could identify some of them and maybe come together and do a delegation with other people that share these concerns.
Yep. Yeah, that's a really good point. So it's certainly on the radar of AMO and also on the radar of the Eastern Ontario Mayor's Caucus. We do have a meeting coming up.
Early December, mid-December anyway.
Yeah. So even though it's past the November 27th deadline, that group, it may still be worth bringing to that group because you're right, we all share in that concern. So I think there would be strength in numbers and having an organization, either AMO or the Eastern Ontario Mayor's Caucus, bring that forward would probably be more impactful. So a great suggestion, we can ask for that to be put on the agenda for the EOMC meeting.
Great, good. Councilor McKenna?
Thank you. I think it is a good idea. I know that the last 4 AMO and Roma conferences from the floor, the delegates have been asking for this. So there is, I'm just trying to think, I guess I like your idea of coming together, but there is a lot of pressure on this particular government to get that back on track. But all that pressure over 4 years doesn't seem to have done anything. So I'm not sure. So I appreciate a larger group going, because I think it wouldn't, if we went in by ourselves, we wouldn't tip the balance.
Yeah, thanks for that. I agree with that. And the theme is a new deal for the municipalities, right? That's going to be part of it, but strength in numbers. And the 2 that you're proposing are ideal. It's locally unique circumstance that we're in, and so it's good to get a minister's ear on it. Any other comments? Okay, you've got to go ahead on that one.
Great, thank you.
Finally, with his worship, Canadian Alliance to End Homelessness and Housing Problem, Mayor Panko.
Thank you. There was a fair amount of media attention given to development that happened towards the end of October, early November, where I guess Premier Ford had put it out to Ontario big city mayors that if you want me to consider using the notwithstanding clause to break up encampments and to clear encampments in your communities, then ask me. And so it was a big debate with Ontario big city mayors. In the end, I think there's 12 that have signed a letter advocating for Premier Ford to exercise notwithstanding clause in order to provide municipalities with the authority to go in and break up encampments, potentially imprison or put people in jail if they have nowhere else to take them. And so the Canadian Alliance to End Homelessness has come up with, I guess, a counterbalance to that, indicating that that's not a human rights approach. It's not going to be effective. They emailed elected officials, I'm not sure who all got it, but I received it back in early November. Now, since that time, there's been a couple of newspaper articles which have also talked about a group of Ontario councillors across a number of municipalities who have come together to speak out against the potential use of the notwithstanding clause to deal with encampments. And so I thought, since I received this, it's important, I think, that we add our voice. Certainly, encampments are far from a desirable situation, but they are not, in my mind, breaking them up, potentially overrunning people's rights, force them into even jail, I guess is a possibility, is not suitable. I think in exercising, if the Premier chose to exercise notwithstanding clause, it's really shuffling the problem down the road. He's not really dealing with the issue at hand. And the issue at hand, of course, is making sure that we have adequate homes for people in our communities to try to deal with the homelessness issue. We're all, I think, quite proud of Bridge House, which has been very successful at the former Willowdale Retirement Home, operated by the county, Lanark County Mental Health. It's been quite effective in providing what will probably be somewhat transitional housing for the 13 occupants at this stage. And I know there was some concern in the community when that first came forward, but I think the reality is it's been very effective at providing people with an opportunity to get a roof over their heads and a foundation under their life. And there's the county last week was talking about delegations, and they're going to be looking for additional provincial funding that would allow them to even expand, potentially to add more units there to try and provide people with shelter that they need. So there has not been widespread push across the province to take a stand on this, but I think it's important that that we take a human rights-based approach here. We know that the Supreme Court of Canada did make a decision that no one should be breaking up no one should be breaking up encampments unless they have someone suitable to move people to. We put a policy in place we all supported about a month ago, and should, with the human rights approach, deal with encampments that might be in our community. So I'm asking council that we take a stand with the Canadian Alliance to End Homelessness and speak out against the use of the notwithstanding clause to end encampments.
Okay, thanks. Questions, comments, support, not support? Council McKenna?
Sure. And I'm no constitutional expert. I was on Parliament Hill in 1981 when the Queen and the Prime Minister and the Minister of Justice signed the Constitution. We repatriated it, and the notwithstanding clause, I don't think it was ever intended to be a tool, a quick and easy when politicians got uncomfortable with something. I don't think it was ever intended to be a tool that you could just pull out of your pocket and implement or turn on and off when you felt like it. So I understand the complexity of encampments and the struggles, and I know the majority of municipal politicians would like to find as many methods to help people living in encampments. I don't support the use of the notwithstanding clause, and I would be not happy to. It's sad that we have to have this conversation, but I would be quite willing to lend support to the Alliance to End Homelessness and their call for not using the notwithstanding clause on this particular matter.
Thank you. I think Councillor Miller has a comment. Go ahead, Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mayor Cagle, for bringing this forward. I support your recommendation. I did read, sorry, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I did read about the county's interest in speaking at Roma, and I wonder if there's anything we can do to support their presentation.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, CO Malcolm there will
Okay.
address that one.
Yeah, so we
Okay.
can certainly follow up with the county and we've participated in other joint delegations, so we can express our interest in participating if that's the wish of council.
Okay.
Thank
Now,
you.
I have Councillor Quinn, but I have a proposed resolution. I'll read, and maybe that'll add to the discussion or not. So moved by whoever, seconded by, that our citizens and neighbors deserve to be treated with compassion and respect, and that encampments can only be effectively resolved through a housing-focused response, working hand in hand with those affected to find solutions that meet their needs. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls opposes Premier Ford utilizing the notwithstanding clause to dissolve encampments in Ontario, and further that the resolution be forwarded to Premier Ford, Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing of Municipalities of Ontario, MPP Jordan, and the Canadian Alliance to End Homelessness. So that is a proposed resolution. Then, Councillor Quinn, you had something.
And I agree with this. I mean, people that are homeless have a problem to begin with. Breaking up their encampment and throwing them in jail is not the answer. That's harsh. They certainly need help. It's a sad situation that we're in where we do have people living in encampments, but throwing them in jail is not compassionate or the answer. We need to work on how we correct this problem. So definitely.
Okay. Councillor Robinson.
Thanks. I'll support this. People who are homeless need help. They don't need their human rights taken away from them. So, yeah, I think it's a good idea just to lend support and maybe increase pressure. So.
Okay, everything's good. Yeah, I will too. And I think we've been proactive. Actually, like a month ago, we did a policy at the request of the police chief, I believe. And so, so I think we've been pretty upfront about it. And so, I'll support it as well.
I'll move the motion.
You'll move it.
I'll move it. We have a second there again.
We can do that now.
Well, I guess effectively, or I guess move it forward to council for.
We'll move it. Yeah, we'll move it to council, and then it'll come up a little later. Okay.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, we have no, or do we have any committee, board, and external organization updates? Seeing none. No information listed correspondence items, so we're going to move into camera. And I'll take a motion to go in camera. Councillor Robinson, second by Councillor Quinn, all in favor? So there's two items. I'll bring a report back at the conclusion of in camera.
Mr. Chair, do you expect or say almost, do you expect these might be a little bit, they're not short and quick ones, they might be a little bit longer. I'm just, if anybody is interested in staying, you're welcome, but.
Well, at the risk of not constraining the discussion, I would project 20 minutes is probably sufficient for me.
I can see her.
Okay, you should be able to go. There she is.
To the car to get something.
You're all set, Councillor Brennan.
Okay. Okay, welcome back. We're back in session. So council had two camera items. The first one was discuss a litigation matter, and that was an information piece for council. And secondly, we discussed proposed acquisition, disposition of land, and staff were given direction. So I will take a motion. I guess, I'll do a motion to come back into open session.
Yes.
Councillor Robinson, Councillor McGuire, all in favor? We have no notice of motions. I have a recommended motion that committee adjourn its proceedings at 7:01 p.m. stand, so adjourn until the next duly called committee meeting. Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Quinn. All in favor?
Short recess. Is there any announcements for me or proclamations?
Yep, it's all right here. Okay, you're all set to go.
Welcome back, everyone, to this meeting of Smith Falls Town Council for Monday, November 18th, 2024. I'll open the meeting with our land acknowledgement. On November 18th, 2024, we acknowledge the sacred land which Smith Falls is now located. It has been a site of human activity for over 10,000 years since rich Indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. We're also grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who care for the land and water in order that we might meet here today. We're also grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution in the making of the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smith Falls. We're mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all other relations. Together, may we care for this land and each other, drawing on the strength of our mutual history of nation building through peace and friendship, and being mindful of generations to come. We need a motion for approval of the agenda, noting the addition of item 9.1 and 9.2. And that is with Councillor McGuire, please.
Thank you, Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Miller that the November 18th, 2024 regular council meeting agenda be approved as circulated.
Thank you. Should be circulated or as amended?
As amended.
As amended, please.
As amended.
Thank you.
That's okay.
Okay. Moved by Councillor McGuire, seconded by Councillor Miller, that the November 18th, 2024 regular council meeting agenda be approved as amended. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Ask for disclosure of pecuniary interest and or conflict of interest and general nature thereof. I see none. Motion for approval of minutes of the Councillor Quinn, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Robinson, that the minutes of the November 4th, 2024 council meetings be approved as circulated.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Quinn, seconded by Councillor Robinson, that the minutes of the November 4th, 2024 council meeting be approved as circulated. All in favor? As carried. Council reports and updates. Councillor Miller, you first.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I haven't done a. Can you hear me? There's a lot of feedback.
You're good.
Okay. I haven't done a council report in a couple of months, so I'm just going to update you on some of my fall activities. I wanted to start with a special acknowledgement of the DBA, who've been hosting some amazing downtown events. I helped out at the 80s block party in September. It was so much fun. So please check out the DBA Facebook page. They have a lot of holiday events planned there. I attended a ribbon cutting for the Makers Loft, and I'd like to welcome them to Smiths Falls. They're located in the Artisan Loft on Maple and William. Along with Councillor McGuire, I attended the art display opening at Lapine's beautiful new apartment building on Queen Street. If you have a chance, go and check that out. Last Friday, I attended a kickoff for the Salvation Army Kettle campaign with Councillors Brennan, Robinson, and Mayor Pankow. I wish them the best of luck. It's a difficult year. I continue to sit on the steering committee for the table, and I congratulate them on another successful fundraiser this fall. They're working to open a center in Smiths Falls and would welcome any community support. I attended a watch party for our Still Standing episode featuring Smiths Falls, and I attended the Heritage Symposium at the Station Theatre with many of my colleagues. And just a hats off to our staff team for working on these events. And finally, I just wanted to remind everyone watching and my colleagues to shop local this holiday season and enjoy all the great things our local shops have to offer.
Thank you very much. Other reports, updates? Councillor McKenna?
Just one, Your Worship. The Mayor and I had the pleasure of going to the Warden's Banquet last week. Warden Fournier, Steve Fournier from Drummond North Rumsley, has finished his year. I think the wardens all do a good job, but I think Warden Fournier's done an exceptional job. Smiths Falls had some delegations at Roma and AMO, and the warden attended with us and had our back at all of those. And I just congratulate him. And the new warden will be chosen within the next week or so, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a couple people running for that. So just want to thank Warden Fournier.
Thank you. Anything else? Anything else? Let's give a couple of my own. Going back to October 30th, some of you may have seen it, but I was invited to be a panelist on the agenda on TVO with regards to Via Rail's plan for new high-frequency, high-speed rail. Might be a bit of both, might be one or the other. We're not sure yet, but along with some real experts from across the country. And it was a great opportunity, I guess, to speak to what we believe are the merits of this proposal. It's probably a significant undertaking, maybe upwards of $100 billion when it's all said and done. But it was good to have the opportunity to hear the experts who were there. I felt a little bit humbled to be part of that group, obviously, but and the contrasting opinions. I think everyone sees the merits of it. Not everyone believes it's going to be possible, but they made in my mind, they made a big investment thus far. It likely will be the biggest construction project in the history of our country when it does come together. Certainly most expensive, but it was a nice opportunity to highlight the community. Also on October 29th, the Powwow Planning Group met. I'd like to say that things are coming together really well. I think a lot of the participants, dancers and drummers are getting lined up. So it's looking like Powwow 2025 will be an outstanding event. Remembrance Day, I think probably all of us attended Remembrance Day, and I just want to shout out to Royal Canadian Legion Branch 95 for its continued leadership. The banners up and down Backwest Street have been enhanced more than this year, but they're they stand out well. Incredible comments, and the Remembrance Day ceremony is always well attended and well received by the community. And just a note, many of us may have seen or heard, especially on social media, maybe a new initiative which has come out in recent years of crosswalks featuring honoring veterans and speaking homage to Remembrance Day. And so I had some conversations with the Legion on Remembrance Day, and I think we'll be hearing from them about trying to do something for next year. The Climate Protection Working Group continues to meet, working closer to bringing a report to council, which we will be looking for endorsement on how we will work together to try and help meet our initiatives in protecting our climate and reducing our carbon footprint and hitting our milestones in creating our plan. County Council was last week. Councilor McKenna and I attended, and the county budget meeting is this Friday. So we're excited to be part of that conversation and trying to ensure we make sure that our voice is heard at the table. Also on Friday, I attended on and off the Rural Recreational Summit that was held at the arena, and very, very well attended. The room was packed, and there's 35 recreation students from Algonquin who were there, and some great speakers lined up. Had to step out from time to time. One reason was the Solicitor General Michael Kersner was in town, and had a chance to connect with him. He met with both our fire service and our police service, and spoke very, very highly of the merits of small municipal police services. He was very impressed with what he saw, and certainly with a lot of changes coming from the new Community Safety and Policing Act, that we will be relying on the Solicitor General to guide us through the whole process. On the 15th, against Salvation Army Kettle, many of us attended that. And as Councillor Miller indicated, it's the needs seem to grow every year. But the capacity of our community is there, and we know we're a very caring and devoted community, and recognizing that this year, probably more than any past year, they're going to require our support. And for those hockey fans in our community, the Battle of Ontario starts tomorrow morning at the Memorial Community Center. The CCHL and the OGHL. It's a 12-game round robin, and this is a great opportunity for some of the best players at the junior level to compete in Smiths Falls to the attention of scouts from U.S. colleges, Canadian universities, NHL scouts. So an opportunity for them to shine. So 12 hockey games will be scheduled between tomorrow and Wednesday. And tickets, I think, are $20 for adults for a full day, or $10 for youth. And like kids 5 and under are free. But just a great use of our facility. I'm sure we'll have a lot of, not just a lot of attendees and participants, but a lot of members of the community be out there to see some great hockey. And that's it for my announcements. I have one proclamation this evening, and that is for National Housing Day. Whereas homelessness and housing affordability has become a pressing issue impacting communities across Ontario and here in the town of Smiths Falls. Whereas a lack of safe and affordable housing in Smiths Falls impacts the well-being of all residents, including the most vulnerable and low-income households, and limits their ability to fully participate in our community. Whereas November 22nd is recognized as National Housing Day across Canada, where communities look to raise awareness on the importance of permanent, safe, and affordable housing to promote health and well-being. Whereas the town of Smiths Falls is committed to working with the federal and provincial governments, as well as private and nonprofit housing providers, to deliver positive housing outcomes for our residents. And whereas the Council of the Corporation of the town of Smiths Falls acknowledges the importance of supporting unhoused individuals without stable or permanent housing as a fundamental human right. Now therefore, Mayor Sean Panko of the town of Smiths Falls do hereby proclaim November 22nd, 2024 as National Housing Day in the town of Smiths Falls. And at that, we have no consent agenda items. We just have 2 motions to look after our business for tonight. Our first is with Councillor Quinn, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Robinson, that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smiths Falls endorse an application for funding for the Community Sport and Recreation Infrastructure Fund for its Lower Ridge Park Enhancement Project.
Any further discussion, Councillor Quinn?
This is very exciting, applying for some funding to help with this and enhance the great park that we have there, turn it into an area where people feel very comfortable and have many uses, and it's a beautiful piece of property. And so by applying for some funding, we're going to have some help with that. It's positive.
Thank you. Any further comments? It's moved by Councillor Quinn, seconded by Councillor Robinson. The Council of the Corporation of the town of Smiths Falls endorsed an application for funding from the Community Sport and Recreation Infrastructure Fund for its Lower Reach Park Enhancement Project. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And Councillor McKenna, you're up next.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Miller, that our citizens and neighbors deserve to be treated with compassion and respect, and that encampments can only be effectively resolved through a housing-focused response, working hand in hand with those affected to find solutions that meet their needs. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls opposes Premier Ford utilizing the notwithstanding clause to dissolve encampments in Ontario. And further, that a copy of the resolution be forwarded to Premier Ford, Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, MPP John Jordan, and the Canadian Alliance to End Homelessness.
Thank you. Further discussion, please.
We had a discussion at Committee of the Whole tonight where Council reached a consensus that it was too expedient to use the notwithstanding clause to break up encampments and move homeless people out of those encampments without providing them adequate housing and other options. And Council certainly just wanted to support the Canadian Alliance to End Homelessness view that the notwithstanding clause is not the right tool. I know it's Council understands it's a complex and there's a cost to it, but it just seemed too expedient to pull out that notwithstanding clause. So that's it.
Thank you. Any further comments? Moved by Councillor McKenna and seconded by Councillor Miller that our citizens and neighbors deserve to be treated with compassion and respect, and that encampments can only be effectively resolved through a housing-focused response, working hand in hand with those affected to find solutions that meet their needs. Now therefore be it resolved that Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls opposes Premier Ford utilizing the notwithstanding clause to dissolve encampments in Ontario, and further that a copy of the resolution be forwarded to Premier Ford, Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, MPP John Jordan, and the Canadian Alliance to End Homelessness. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. That's it for our business. Any inquiries or announcements? Yes, Councillor McKenna.
Thank you. A few years ago, Councillor Brennan brought a great idea to Council with the trivia question ending some of our meetings, and I just hope that this group would reinstate that because it was fun in these times of turmoil. It was, and if you're interested, maybe somebody would volunteer to.
Councillor Brennan.
Councillor McKenna might want to start us off right now if you want to.
I think we're all waiting with bated breath here for a.
No, I was thinking that it would be at the next meeting. So.
Okay, so you volunteered for the next one?
Sure.
Okay.
Did I have to remember if it was during Cal or Council?
Maybe we did.
It was council.
I think it was Council.
I thought it was council.
Okay.
It was COVID Council.
Yeah, it was during the pandemic.
Yeah.
We were all meeting virtually.
Yeah.
And Councillor Brennan brought this forward. We took turns. So
the topics are heavy we deal with and the problems in the world, but this one it's good to know your community. And so,
I can use the same questions because it's a different group. So
and I will remember.
You won't remember it.
Okay. Well, we'll look forward to that at our next council meeting. Okay. Nothing further. Councillor Robinson has a motion for adjournment.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Quinn, that this council adjourn its proceedings at 7:19 p.m. and stand so adjourned until the next duly called meeting of council.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Robinson and seconded by Councillor Quinn. This council adjourns proceedings at 7:19 p.m. and stands so adjourned until the next duly called meeting of council. All in favor? Carried. We are adjourned. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.